It is absolutely essential that we recognize the appeal of wisdom. Once we know that wisdom is calling to us, then we must learn to appreciate wisdom so that we have a reason to pay attention to the appeal of wisdom. Understanding this, we then need to work toward acquiring wisdom. But all of this is futile if after we acquire it, we do not apply it. The bulk of the book of Proverbs and the majority of our study focuses on the application of wisdom. When God reveals his wisdom, man is not to pursue it merely out of intellectual curiosity, but God expects us to lay hold of it, to seize it, to learn to practice this wisdom. This is why we read in Proverbs 13:16 that every prudent man acts with knowledge, but a fool displays his folly. A prudent man does not merely possess knowledge, though he certainly does possess it. He will do more than just acquire that knowledge. He will act with knowledge. The things that he learns will be put on display in his life, just as folly is on display in the life of the fool. Doing wickedness is like sport to a fool, and so is wisdom to a man of understanding. Proverbs 10, verse 23. The fool is said to enjoy practicing wickedness. It is like a sport to him. A contrast, though, is made between the fool and the man of understanding. The fool enjoys doing wickedness, though doing is not explicitly stated in regard to wisdom. The contrast here implies that wisdom is something that we do, just as the fool enjoys doing wickedness. A man of understanding enjoys doing that which is wise. A plan in the heart of a man is like deep water, but a man of understanding draws it out. Proverbs 20 and verse 5. Water that is at the bottom of a very deep well has the potential to do good, but only when one does what is necessary to draw it out does it actually become beneficial to that person. Well, in the same way, having plans and intentions to do good and act with wisdom only have the potential of doing good. But one who has learned the truth has the capacity to act with wisdom. But he must draw it out of his heart so that it is able to be manifested in the actions that he takes. Only then will wisdom actually benefit the one who possesses it. Like a dog returns to his vomit is like a fool who repeats his folly. Proverbs 26:11. One who repeatedly goes back to sin and walking in foolishness is like the dog with its ignorant and disgusting behavior. There is no benefit for returning to one's foolish ways. If one had sense, he would be repulsed by the thought of returning to his folly. But the fool, like the dog who returns to his vomit, keeps going back into his sin. And the instructions given in the book of Proverbs are not just for us to learn what is expected of us. They are written so that we might forsake our sin and follow after righteousness. So as we seek to apply wisdom, there are several topics that we're going to be discussing in future programs as we proceed through this study. First, we're going to talk about character. Some of the more general character traits that we have, such as self-control, integrity, uprightness, and trustworthiness. We're going to talk about speech and how we can do good and keep from doing evil with our words. We'll discuss the concept of work, having a proper work ethic, and the rewards of labor and the consequences of laziness. We'll talk about stewardship, making good use of our money and our possessions. We'll discuss justice, being fair in our dealings, and the importance of justice in society. We'll talk about the subject of suffering, the reality of suffering, and how to deal with it. We'll talk about the subject of alcohol, warnings against the consumption of alcohol. We'll talk about plans for the future, the uncertainty of life, and our need to trust in God. We'll talk about women and the value of a good wife, the burden of a contentious wife, and warnings against the adulteress. We'll talk about family and the responsibility of parents. We'll talk about the responsibility of children to their parents. We'll also talk about subjects such as friendship and being good neighbors and our responsibility toward the government and toward God. Now, we will not try to cover every topic or cite every verse in the book of Proverbs in this study, but we will examine the majority of both as we discuss these topics as I've just shared with you. So I invite you to continue joining us for our daily programs as we continue to examine this powerful book of wisdom. Friends, we thank you for joining us for our program today, and have a blessed day.